Okay. So it looked like the live stream has started. So I will start off with my name.
One moment. I want to give people time to join.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to see who's all here first. Let me go and make an announcement in the group because right now it's just us two. Okay, I guess we should wait maybe 5 more minutes just to see if people join.
Okay.
And then from there.
Yeah. So if no one joined, we can still go forward and just basically address, probably like some frequently asked questions about credit and what it is and the repair of it and, go over the dispute letter. So we can still
No. I definitely think we should do that for sure. But I just want to give people 5 minutes to join. Now, typically, I like to start meetings on time just to respect everyone's time and time boundaries. So once we get into the groove of things, we'll always just start on time because with these lives, you can replay them. But since this is just the initial one, and I know when I've done groups with initial lives, it might be a little wonky sometimes. So just in case there's kinks on people's end, I want to make sure that I give them a little bit more time since it's our first run of this. So we'll see.
Okay.
And then I just made a post as well. So we'll see how that goes. So how has your day been?
I was off today, so had errands to run this morning. Matter of fact, I've been running all day. I just took time to stop now to do this, but I've been running. So it's just like my off days are never really off days.
Yeah, we are swamped, and we're out after next week. We're out into the new year. So of course, everybody's trying to get everything to me. So I am incredibly swamped at work. So again, it's just taking this hard stop to do this. And then I'm an hour ahead. So it's 7 o'clock here. So yeah, we'll finish up around, I would say 8:15 in case there's questions.
Is your
My
time
time, so 7 your time.
Eastern or Central time?
I'm Eastern time.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just me doing a reminder of that for myself. That's why I didn't want to push it too late, because then that'll put me, 8, 9 o'clock.
Right.
Okay, 2 more minutes. I promise, when you're waiting on time to pass, it goes so slow.
I know. It
feel
just feels
like
like you've been waiting a long time.
It's only 8 minutes.
I know.
It's only 8 minutes, but this will probably be the only time that I do this long of a delay. And then is it Thursday? Because the next one is on Thursday. So we'll definitely start on time.
Okay.
On Thursday, and then do about an hour. Hi, Michelle. Okay, so people are starting to join. So I would say if you want to go ahead and give an introduction about yourself, your background, and how long you've been doing credit repair, and then I can chime in after that.
Okay. So my name is Shalita Coline. I started off in collections in 1997. During that time, I was in college, needed a job. They're like, hey, we'll give you a job. I think it was probably like $8 an hour or something, like very minimum. But it was a lot, back then. So they're like, you just got to call people and tell them, to pay this bill. So that's kind of how I got into it. During that time, it was when everyone was really pushing the FDCPA laws. So it was a lot of training. It was a total of 90 days of training to do collections. And during that time period, they also taught us how to collect by counseling the people that we spoke with. And that was, later in life, once I got older and started getting my own credit, I realized how important that was. So when I started collecting, I would focus more on the counseling side of it, teaching people the reason why it's so important, and how important your credit is. So now from 97 to now, I went from just collections for direct banks. I did third-party collections, and more, I did legal collections. Now I'm a counselor for a credit union. They paid for me to get certified to be able to speak to people about their credit, how to repair their credit, and more important, how not to get in spaces where your credit is jeopardized. So more and more over the years, the counseling part was more and more important. I realized, coming out of high school, we're introduced to credit fast, especially if you go on a college campus. Everyone's standing at little tables saying, hey, you want a free slice of pizza? Apply for this credit card, just different little things. But coming out in high school, they weren't teaching us about credit. They were teaching us about getting a job. I mean, if you were good, some high schools maybe even taught you a little bit about your taxes, or different things like that. But no one was saying what credit is. What does credit mean for me? And so at that point, whenever I get someone on the line, if they're willing to listen, I would explain, because just because they have it doesn't mean that they know what it is and how important it is, in society, especially today when we're definitely dealing with a society that's going to be pretty much cash is going to cease to exist. Credit is going to be very, very important.
And then what's your certification that you have?
So I'm with CUNA. It's the Credit Union National Association.
Okay.
And they pay for us to learn how to be certified counselors. So that way we are equipped to speak to anyone that contact us about how to repair their credit or how to go about, establishing credit.
Okay. And then I'll just add a little bit about myself, since we're going to be talking about credit repair, which I'm not a certified credit specialist. Many of you will know that I'm a licensed attorney, so anything I say is not legal advice. And if you have questions from a legal lens, I recommend that you get your own counsel. But I have worked in the credit industry. Shalita and I actually worked at a company together where I was the petition processor, where I was processing the petitions that you typically would get when you have to go to court when you haven't paid your debt. And I've also worked as a recovery specialist at a different banking institution where my role was to figure out how do we collect, but we were doing more of the repossession. So if you use your car, we would then have a lien, and we're doing more of the repossession. And I know she also has expertise in skip tracing and things like that. So I will be in the conversation more from the lens of legal and some of the things that we had to do, but then also just things that I've done to keep my credit above the 750 score as well. So Shalita, if you just want to give just a general answer to this question of what is credit repair not? Because there's so many people now that's offering credit repair, and they're saying they can remove medical bills, they can remove student loans, they can remove all of this debt, especially them saying that they can remove debt that that you're responsible for. That you went to the hospital, you didn't pay the bill. How is it that people are able to say these things and convince people that it's something that they're actually capable to do?
Correct. So most of the time when a person needs their credit, so credit repair, what is credit repair? Credit repair is going in, is just what it says, going in and cleaning up your credit bureau. So the initiation of credit repair was because credit bureaus are human, just like us, right? They have someone that's manually going in and doing these updates. Even though your banking institutions, your finance companies, they're speaking to the credit bureaus through computer access and links. Mm-hmm. However, there's an individual that's going in and updating your credit. So that's where credit repair initiated at. Sometimes things don't get updated. Sometimes a financial institution may not update. Different things took place back in the day. There's more fail safes now than what it was, but it started because you can pay off a bill and the institution or the collection agency or the buy here, drive here car lots, mm-hmm. They don't know the federal laws, so they're not updating like they should. Or, small mom and pop credit unions, they're known for not updating, during that time period. So cleaning up your credit was you grabbing your credit report, looking at it and saying, oh, I paid this. This is incorrect. This loan was only for this amount, and going in, contacting those credit bureaus and updating them that this information is incorrect. Once you let them know that it's incorrect, they in return contact that creditor. So a lot of places rely on that creditor not answering. Mm-hmm. So They don't answer in the 30 days, they can get it removed from your credit. However, that does not mean that that company cannot report it the next day or next month or in the next year. It can still come back. So credit repair companies, the majority of them are taking advantage of people, because when you look and you want your credit repair, it's because you want something, right? You can't get approved for a car, you can't get approved for a mortgage. And of course, they take that opportunity to monopolize and to gain for their sales financially on your hardship. So, a lot of times, I hear people all the time tell me, oh, don't worry about it. I'll get it disputed off of my credit report. I work in a credit union right now. I get this, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And then, it never fails. 6, 7 months later, they're giving me a call saying, hey, um, you know, can we talk about this, or can you help me out here? Because things didn't quite go the way that they thought it would. Because now, believe it or not, with most institutions, it's actually updated daily. Every night at 8 o'clock, it's updated. So it may have came off your credit today, and because credit bureaus are behind, typically right now they're running anywhere from 3 to 6 months behind. I'll give you a good example. A vehicle I paid off. I paid it off in September. I got an alert today saying that, oh, congratulations, you paid off 70% of your vehicle. And I'm like, no, I have the title,
Yeah.
so that just lets you know how far behind they are. So, and companies take advantage of that. They take advantage of the credit bureaus being behind. They take advantage of creditors, especially right now with COVID. They're taking advantage of that. The manpower. The people not there being able to update in the 30 days. It's just basically it's kind of it's a racket for the most part. And under no circumstances can anyone get your bankruptcy removed. They can't get, if they get your bankruptcy removed, for example, it's because it was supposed to come off. That's the only reason why. It's something that you can do yourself. You don't have to pay anyone to do that for you. You could have contacted all 3 credit bureaus. They would have contacted the bankruptcy courts, and it would have came off. You didn't have to pay someone $1,200 to do that for you. Student loans. If it comes off, it was time for it to come off. You paid it, or were in your agreement for, I think, what is 10 or 15 years, Ebony? Whatever agreement you have to pay back with them, you've met that. The same thing with IRS tax liens. The only reason why it would come off is because it was meant to come off. It was time for it to drop off. Other than that, you paid this money and it may come off, and you may be good enough to go grab that car or something to that nature. Don't do it for a mortgage, because the underwriting on a mortgage is something totally different. You're not going to be able to get something disputed off and think you're about to go get a mortgage just like that. So, it's just one of those things where sometimes, luck of a draw, you might get lucky and something may come off. Also, always suspect, if you didn't pay it off, if you didn't settle it in full, chances are it's going to come back.
Okay. So what I want to take away from this and just really lift up so people can understand is that when you're dealing with credit repair companies, and I want to say this, not to say that all credit repair companies are like this, and to let you know that there are some reputable companies out there. I don't have a list of them because I've never used credit repair agencies or companies, but be mindful of the fact that the moment you file a dispute, by law, it has to be removed off of your credit, because at this point, you're saying it's not valid. I didn't do this. And somebody fraudulently, essentially is what you're saying, place this on my credit report. So there's this 30-day process or timeline in order for somebody to investigate to make sure that, one, either this is going to be validated, or it's going to be found that you actually owe the funds. So in that 30-day period, because your credit score is updated per cycle as well. So within that cycle, you see, oh, my credit jumped 30 points. this is a great company. And as she just stated, the bureaus are 3 to 6 months behind. So let's say it takes 3 months for them to catch up to the fact that this is a valid debt. Now, 3 months later, you go and try to do whatever, apply for a credit card, a car, whatever the case may be, because maybe it took you 3 months to save up for your down payment for the car. And now all of this stuff has popped back up on your credit. And now you're back in the same place you were 90 days ago, but you're out of more money because now you've paid somebody to do something. And that money could have been used to negotiate whatever you owe to pay down that particular debt. And then also being mindful of the fact that if it's a debt that was already supposed to be removed, prime example is I've paid off my student loans. If I went to my report and saw that my student loans were still on there, I can immediately contact the bureaus, but I would actually contact the federal student loan individuals and say, hey, I'm paid off. Can you go ahead and report this? Which would probably be quicker than me doing the cycle of the credit bureaus if I in fact paid it off. So just think about that when you're thinking about these, get my credit score up quick. It takes years. I mean, it took me years. I've had credit for 20 plus years now. So to think that in year 2 or 3, I'm going to go from a 600 to over 700 or whatever, it's just implausible because credit is based off of timing too. So my credit is higher just because of the length of time. It's not just, I'm paying everything or your debt to income ratio. That time in is a huge factor as well, because it's showing that I consistently am paying things on time. I'm consistently monitoring my credit and making sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, which gives me those additional points that someone who only has a year or 2 years worth of credit just wouldn't be able to get. It's similar to, think about car insurance. When you first try to get a car, your insurance is through the roof. The longer you've been driving, the cheaper your rates. So the longer you've had credit, the higher your score.
So, and to add on to what Ebony said, it's a couple of things that I wanted to comment on. So, when you dispute something or you have a company to dispute something for you, as she stated, in those 30 days is the time period that we're working on to prove that, it is yours or it's not. Mm-hmm. If you're going to dispute something and it's not yours, there's a lot to it. You have to make sure. So you're stating that someone stole your identity. Mm-hmm. So you have to submit proof of that. You have to submit that, hey, I have a police report. A police report is always needed in a case of identity theft. Addition to that, once you do that, then we have to pull the original contracts. Mm-hmm. We have to look at it and see, where this money was spent, who, what ID we have on file, different things like that. So we can also request for more time. Mm-hmm. When you're dealing with something like that. If you just, contact and say, hey, if they just send a letter saying that this is not mine, then with that letter, proof has to be submitted. So if you don't have any proof, then it's gonna come back on you. Additional to that, when you want to dispute, if it's a newer loan, if it's like newly paid, has recent activity, yes, contacting the creditor directly is best. If it's older, let's say, it's like 6 years old or 7 years old, then at that time you want to contact the credit bureaus. And the reason is that if you contact the creditors directly, they have to go into research to find that. They're not going to be willing to do that. You can send them letters. You can send them certified letters. The best way to do it is to contact the credit bureaus because it comes over to us electronically. And when it comes to us electronically, it saves time. And you also have a record of that dispute because the credit bureau is keeping that record for you. So you can finally say, hey, I've disputed this 5 times because you have record that you submitted this to the credit bureaus 5 times and you're still not getting the answer, or getting the updates that you're supposed to get. So keep that in mind that, you want that tracking record.
And then when the creditors are validating debt, of course, you said they look at the ID. And I think about, the institution I was working for, we were giving out loans. So for us, we're looking at not only the ID, we're looking at the loan agreement, we're looking at the signature, we're looking at the canceled check, who signed the check, what bank was it cashed at, what account number. And then we start doing that research to make sure that every single thing is tied to this particular individual. Even if it was an electronic signature, what email was it sent to? Is it this person's email? So what are some other things that you all look at when you're trying to validate debt, which I think this will be helpful for individuals to think about before they get ready to dispute, asking yourself these questions. Did I sign a check? Did I cash it at my bank? Did I do an electronic signature? Because the game isn't to try to get over, it's to be honest. Because if it comes out that you're lying or that it's fraudulent, it could open the door to something major. Because I always tell people, anything over $500, and then you say that it's a fraud, it's considered a felony theft by fraud, because you took somebody's money fraudulently, knowing that whatever it is that you're saying isn't true, and now they handed over more than $500 to you because of your fraud. So you could be opening yourself up to a felony as well, unnecessarily, when you could possibly negotiate, less than whatever you owe, and having, a settlement on your credit versus paid in full. But a settlement is definitely better than it's just sitting there unpaid.
Correct. So you pretty much hit it on the nail, what the things that we look at. The first thing when we consider fraud is, it's just an old rule of thumb. First thing we look at is to see how many payments been made. Because we're taught to find fraud. I have accounts that we haven't received any payment. As soon as they hit my desk, I'm able to tell that it's fraud. And I'm telling you, it's a new loan. I can look at it and I can see right off the bat. I've repossessed so many cars in the Missouri, Illinois area that I knew from the beginning that it was fraud. It's just, just part of being in the business. So usually when it gets to the collection process, if you have a more seasoned or veteran collector, they're going to be able to look at it and tell if it's fraud. We can look at it and tell if you're just letting a family member use your information, like for cars or for credit cards. We can tell. And, we do look at different stuff. We go back and look at the documents, look at what time it was done. We take age into factor, jobs, where you shop. We look at all that. So it's very extensive. And, and the thing about it is we're really fast at it. We get it. We can pretty much pull all that stuff within a day's time, a couple of hours, and we can answer, as soon as we get it and look at it and say, hey, this is not fraud. We're going to need more, if you want to file that police report, that's totally up to you, because just long as that officer is going to call me and say, hey, they're saying this is fraud. What is your thoughts? And I'm going to tell them, well, we see that the packages was going to this address. We see that, and they're saying this is their address now, different things like that. We're conversating, and the officer usually is like, okay, let me talk to them again. So like Ebony said, it's certain things, if it's $500 or $600, we're probably like, okay, whatever, but when you're talking about thousands of dollars, and it depends on the size of the institution. Some institutions, $500 or $600 is a lot to them, and they're gonna go hard for $500 or $600. Some institutions is like, okay, well, this is $5,000. We're not gonna let this go. It just depends on the size. Also, so yeah, you definitely don't want to claim fraud if it is not. because you can definitely get yourself in trouble. And institutions can bring charges against you personally for that. I've seen it. We've done it. I've been in court cases, that's something that you definitely don't want to do. It's better for you to call them up and say, hey, I was young, I made some bad decisions, and you can take this for pennies on the dollar. It's always an easier way.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that advice for sure, because a lot of people, they sometimes forget that all of this is temporary. It's not going to be forever. It's frustrating and it's definitely challenging when you're in that space and you can't get approved for anything. But once a creditor, especially if it's a larger institution and they have the funds, or like I'm in-house counsel for an organization. So if they have somebody in-house, because I send off a lot of letters for certain things because it's quick. They reach out to me, draft this letter, it's done because they have the in-house resources. And now if we then take it to outside counsel, meaning that because I don't litigate, I don't go to court, I do contracts, negotiation, incorporating businesses, things like that. But if it gets to the point of litigation, now we have fees for outside counsel, and we're going to tie that back to you. So now if your credit was at a 600 or 650, now you're going to have this attached as well, because more likely than not, you're not going to be able to afford the additional attorney fees, and your credit is going to be lower than it was to begin with. And then when you're dealing with an institution, they're going to try to get their money however they can get it. So now they're going to go into your bank account, your wages, whatever they need to do to get those funds, because they have the resources to do it, versus if you have a cell phone bill that's been sitting on your account, it's 5 years, T-Mobile, whomever, they're not going to waste their time trying to garnish you for a $200 cell phone bill. So that's just going to sit there. But once you get into the larger dollar amounts and you're dealing with these larger institutions, some of the things is just to prove a point, because they get frustrated. A lot of the things that I do for my organization is driven by emotion sometimes. It's like, how dare they X, Y, and Z, right? So if you think about it from a creditor's lens, how dare they take $5,000 or $6,000, claim fraud. Now we're using in-house resources to research something that we shouldn't even have to research. And all they needed to do was call and talk to us. And I'm going to tell you this, just from me doing a lot of write-offs and charge-offs, et cetera, for debt, it is actually in the best interest of the organization for you to pay us than for us to charge you off, even if we can get something. So we would actually prefer that you call and say, hey, I know I owe $1,000. Is it any way I can pay $500, or can I pay you $50 a month for the next 2 years? I was signing all types of agreement. If it was $15 a month, that looked better for our portfolio than a charge off where we collected absolutely nothing.
Correct. And, and that's across the board with institutions, collection agencies, anyone that's giving you or extending you any type of credit. It's always easier for us to go in and take payment versus, doing a charge off. And like Ebony said, it's because of the overall dollar, and we work off of fiscal years. So those charge offs affect our numbers that year. Yes. So it's something that we definitely don't want to do. Of course, we're always grabbing the recoveries, once it is charged off, but we prefer not to charge you off in the beginning. So when you're dealing with that, it's always just best to go in and settle. I know that there's a lot of stuff, and I know we're going to get into settlement versus payment in full in our next session. Yes. But it's always better to go in and settle, because you think about the money that you're paying this company to go in and repair your credit. You can actually go in and repair that credit yourself and actually get great results, versus paying a company, not getting great results or temporary results, versus going in and just settling out your debts.
And so what I'm going to try to do right now is share my screen, and we can go over the sample dispute letter. So we've talked about, just basics of credit repair, what that looks like, some of the things that creditors think about, and some of the repercussions if you truly do have this debt and then you're disputing it. Now we're going to talk through, if you're ready to file a dispute, what does that look like if you choose not to go with a credit repair company or you want to do that yourself? So once you have your dispute letter, if you can just start talking through, like, what is the first step before you get ready to send off this letter? What's all the information that you might want to collect? And then I'm going to work on sharing my screen.
So the first thing you want to do is that, of course, you want to pull all 3 credit bureaus, and you want to see what's out there. What's my credit health, basically? What do I need to pay? What can wait? You go in and you look and, see what has been paid. And still is showing that it hasn't been paid. Um, so you would pull all 3, and there's a lot of resources. The government now give you free credit reports once a year from all 3 bureaus. It's pretty easy to get the ones from TransUnion and Equifax. You can literally go online to free credit report. I think it's freecreditreport.com. Pull it. Experian, they won't give you your results online, but they will mail them to you, and it's very fast. Actually, you get it like within 5 or 6 days. Also, there's other stuff out there like Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, that you can go in and kind of, they're not as good as the credit bureaus, but it definitely give you an idea where you are. And more than anything, it links you back to the credit bureau, if you don't know. And if you apply for something, and then you actually can go on the credit bureau sites directly. And if you were denied, of course, they're going to, or if you had an interest rate that you didn't agree with, say you think that you should have had a 7% interest rate, but you got a 24% interest rate, you can contact those CBRs for them to send you out a copy of your credit report. Once you assess your credit report and you see what's there, at that time, you need to look and say, hey, what are my options? What can I pay? How I go about paying it? Is it with a collection agency? Where is it? Is it public records such as a lawsuit or a lien? Different things like that, that you need to look at. And you have to be honest with yourself. You have to say, okay, well, I have this in student loans. What can I do about the student loans? If it's a bankruptcy, it hasn't been 10 years yet, because bankruptcy stay on your credit report for 10 years. If it's bad debt, it stays on your credit bureau for 7 years. So if it's something that you've had for 7 years, is it past the 7 years? And it's the 7 years of the last activity. So let's say that you had a credit card and it charged off, right? But you stopped paying on it 6 months before it charged off. Well, it drops off 7 years after charge off, providing that there hasn't been any more activity, such as you may have it went to a collection agency, you may have made a $25 payment. Well, that starts your 7 years all over again on that bad debt. So, different things like that. You got to kind of, make that decision. I'm speaking from a person that did have bad credit, even though I was a collector. We kind of live off of our bonuses and live above our means, and then sometimes the bonus is not as big as it was what you're used to. So, I made some bad decisions. I had to decide, hey, do I pay this and let people see it? Because I got a year before it drops off. Do I pay it and, go ahead and buy a house now and let it stay on there for 7 years and affect my interest rate? Or do I go ahead and let it drop off in a year? It's different things like that you have to look at logically, but it's things that you can do yourself. If you want to pay a credit repair company, I'm not saying not to. I just want you to be aware that this is something that you can do yourself. This is something, that you can save money on. You can type up different templates of this letter and do just like they do. All they're going to do is take this letter and fill in your name and your information and send it out every 30 days. You literally can do that yourself with a stamp and not spend as much money that you would for a credit repair company.
And then I just want to add the comment that you made about, it's been on there for 7 years and then making the decision once you realize it, do I just let it fall off or do I make another payment and then start that cycle over again? Because this probably would have been, I don't know, 19 years ago. I had a T-Mobile cell phone bill and I had called T-Mobile. I said, can you turn my phone off? They said, okay, because I switched to Sprint.
Mm-hmm.
They never turned my phone off. So 2 months had passed and then they sent me a bill and I called them and I said, I called to cancel this phone. They said that I didn't. I said, okay, is there any activity on the phone? There had been absolutely no activity on that phone. So it's clear that there was a conversation with someone to turn the phone off. And since I was much younger, there was nothing I was trying to do with credit. I had already had a car. I really didn't know much about credit anyways. I definitely wasn't buying a house. So I just never paid it, but I didn't pay it from an emotional background because I know that I had called and said, turn this off. So therefore I wasn't going to pay for something that I shouldn't have been paying for. I waited 7 years because I did like the check and balances of it. I'm paying all these other things on time. I'm paying my credit card. I'm paying my student loan. I'm paying loans that I had, my car loan. If I try to get something, are they really going to care that there's this $100 cell phone bill? Probably not. They're going to look at everything else that I'm paying and they might ask me about it. And then I would tell them the exact same thing. Well, this is what happened. And for me, it's about principle. I don't want to pay it and I'm not going to pay it. But they see that it's clear that this person does pay all of their other bills. That's more than this $100. So there has to be something else going on. So that's something you can think about too. If it's a smaller bill and you feel as though either you don't owe it for whatever reason, but you have this heavy, I call them heavy hitters, right? Revolving credit, all of that sitting on your account that's going to outweigh this little cell phone bill, then maybe that's not something that you need to be focusing on. And you need to focus more on the heavy hitters. Because I know sometimes with credit repair companies, they might say, oh, go ahead and pay this $100 bill off. But you got these heavy hitters that you owe money to. And it's going to look much better to pay this off and make sure that you're up to date on your credit card versus a cell phone bill. For me at this point might be 5 years old, right? And in 2 years, it's going to fall off anyways. So who really cares?
Correct. And, and if you were to pay it, then here it's going to follow you as a charged off $100 bill that's showing paid for another 7 years. So you're still going to get questioned about it. So on the underwriting standpoint of it, you're correct. When I will look at something, if underwriting call me and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? I would say, hey, something happened there. There's a reason why she didn't pay that $100 because she's managing to pay. She's paid a $700 mortgage, for the last 20 years with, no problem. She's paid this and she's paid that. So that is correct. We do look at things like that. That you wouldn't be a red flag for us. It's obvious, that something happened there. Matter of fact, the last credit union I worked for, I was part of the underwriting where the loans are being proved. The underwriting is done by a computer system. And we go in and put in the ramifications of if it's this, deny it. If it's this, approve it. And that was things that we looked at. We look at if there's a charge off. If the charge off was, I think it was like $450 or less, we approve. The computer system automatically approve you.
Yeah, things like that make sense. And we're going to get into the letter and then that'll probably be us wrapping up. But this is just, one piece of advice. If you have credit that you're working on, and then Shalita, I want you to do the exact same thing. One of the things that I always recommend, which some of you have probably heard about, is if you have a credit card, put a small bill on there and pay it off every month. Because I have multiple credit cards. However, I have one credit card that my AT&T internet, because that's all I have, I don't have cable, my internet is $50. I have that account set on auto pay. The $50 hit, so I never have a balance. So that gives me extra points. And then I'm getting a tick mark every month because every month I'm able to pay off the $50. And I think thinking about something that you know for a fact will always be in your account that you can put on auto pay. And that could be something, Netflix, I don't know, it keeps going up. Maybe it's
Water
$50.
bill, sewer bills are the
Yeah,
best
but
ones. It's a
something
small
that comes
bill.
every month, but it's small, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put your gas bill or your electric bill on that card for auto pay because you might wake up and the gas bill is $200-300 and now you've overdrawn your account. But if you know this $10 Netflix bill is the only thing sitting on your credit card, it's going to be on auto pay. So this particular card, so this one card that I have, it's always at a zero balance and it's always paid in full every month. They're not looking at the fact that it's $10 or for me it's $50. I'm just getting the points of, oh, she doesn't ever carry a balance over on this card and she pays it off every month. And then I have another credit card where I do a little bit more with, but I have this one just to make sure that I'm consistently building credit every month.
Ebony, what we can do is that maybe later on we can do a session where I can give some pointers on how to increase your points.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do this. I just want to give people like one little tidbit about one thing that you can do today versus because some of the stuff I do for my credit, you can't just wake up and do it today, right? But I think with a $10 a month bill that you might have, and you know that you're going to pay it every month, and you know your account holds this dollar amount every month, you can start that today and set it up on auto pay.
Yep, definitely. Definitely. It's something that my husband and I do practice. We have things that we do that with. That's on auto pay. It's like our Verizon bill. It's for our Verizon bill. We always know we want our cell phone bills paid. We have hotspots, stuff that we have to have because of our work and everything. So it's like the mortgage. It's important that cell phone bill is going to be paid. So it goes to a credit card, it automatically pays, and then the credit card pulls it out of our bank of account every month, at the same time. It's always, we never see it. It's like this, like Verizon bills paid, we know credit card's going to hit us up with the charge. And then next thing you know, it's coming out of our account. All is just smooth transition, because that's something for us. It's one of our important bills that no matter what, like you said, it's not like a light bill or a gas bill. That's why I say like sewer bills, depending on where you live at, sewer bill could be $20-30 or the trash bill, $20-30, something little. That is something that you can do immediately to make a difference.
So let's go through your sample letter.
Okay, so to speak on the letter, so dispute letters are simple. Sometimes I get dispute letters that's trying to quote the laws, that's telling me, oh, the FTC said this, and we know that. We have yearly training on it. We know what the laws are. We don't need that. Credit bureaus don't need it. They know the laws. The laws were put in place for them because that's a whole nother history about the credit bureaus, but the laws was put in place for them. So, these companies, they'll show you these big, long drawn out letters. Nope, because all we're going to do is scan in, look for the line of credit, what you said you did, what's not right, and just keep it moving. So in the letter, it's just simple. At the top of it, of course, you're going to have your name, your current address, because you want to make sure that any letters, any notifications that's going to come from this dispute can reach you. A lot of times, a lot of our credit come from, moving, not updating addresses, anything like that. So you do want to put your current address on that letter. And then you want this to go to the complaint department, because essentially, the majority of the time that by regulations, we have to report accurately. So the majority of the times when there's something wrong on your credit bureau, it's not your financial institutions. It's usually something that's going on with the credit bureau, the credit bureaus themselves. And that's why I said earlier that, it's best to address them, because 9 times out of 10, we're reporting correctly. Every account in our office every night gets updated. So if anything changed, if you get an NSF, we back off a payment, it's updating that night that, hey, now this account is 60 days past due. That's how fast we are. So you're contacting the credit bureau's complaint department, because the complaint is that your credit bureau is not accurate. So that depends on, if you pulled all three, you're going to send this letter individually to all three of them. Some companies now, you can go Experian, you can lodge your disputes online, perfect. But sometimes you do have to send in that letter. So you would send it to all three of them. If it's just one, sometimes you'll see where something's showing correctly at TransUnion, but it's not at Equifax. Then, of course, you send that letter to Equifax. And, you grab their address and everything. And to whom it may concern, I am writing today to dispute the following information on my credit file. The item or items, because you can do more than one dispute at a time, I am disputing are highlighted on my enclosed credit report. So the reason why that statement is in there is because if you contact us or the credit bureau, they're going to want to know, can you show me where it is on your credit bureau? They want you to provide them proof that it's being reported incorrectly. I know it sounds crazy, but whether you're talking to a creditor or the credit bureau. So before you call, make sure you have a copy of that credit report with you. Before you send a letter, make sure you have a copy of that credit report. Make copies of that credit report, because you may have to go through this process 2 or 3 times. If it's another company, they're going to have to go through that process 2 or 3 times. So make sure you have copies of it. So the next paragraph basically just breaks down what needs to be in that dispute letter, right? You want them to know what item you're disputing, even though you have it highlighted on the credit bureau. Make sure that your letter says this, what you're disputing, the reason why you're disputing. Identify that line as much as possible in your letter. So if it says Discover card, you want to say the credit line with Discover card, the amount that is showing that you're approved for, or your current credit limit. You want to include that amount. You want to include the current balance, and the date more than anything. The date of that line of credit, no matter what it is, whether it's a mortgage, if it's a charged off account, you want to grab the information off of it saying what day it was charged off. If it's with a collection agency, what day it was placed with that collection agency, in addition to who the original creditor was. You want to add that information. Just go into detail, say, for instance, back to Discover, say Discover sold your account to ABC collection agency, and they placed it as a charge off on your credit. So, now you have 2 charge offs showing. You should have charge off showing for ABC credit, ABC collections. You have a charge off showing for Discover Bank. The two both can't report as a charge off. So that would be something you would dispute. It has to either show Discover or it has to show ABC. It can't show 2 different lines of charge off, because that's messing with your points and that's inaccurate reporting. So ABC collections can put in the description that is the Discover Bank on your credit report, but Discover and ABC collection both cannot report at the same time for the same debt. So that would be a good dispute letter. I'm addressing the collections on my account, on my credit file from ABC collections. It's a double reporting. So you say that ABC Collections is reporting my Discover bank account for $5,000 for a charge off on this date. However, Discovery Bank is also reporting for $5,000 on this date. And then you go into what you expect. Do you expect for it discovered to be deleted, or you want a correction? You have to tell them that, this is what I'm expecting. In this case, you would want discovered to be deleted because, for one, either they have a collection. Usually if it's a bank that big, they probably sold it off to that collection agency. So you want discovered to be deleted totally. And then you let them know that, hey, and keep a copy of this letter in my file, just in case it comes back, because it has been sold. That collection agency may sell it to another collection agency. So you want that record, and you want a copy of that letter that, hey, I've already disputed this Discovered Bank card. No matter whose hands it go into, it originated as Discovered. So you want that record on your file.
Perfect.
And
Thank
also
you for sharing this letter for sure. And
on the enclosures, and this is very important. With this letter, you're always sending a copy of your credit bureau.
Yes.
However, there may be other things that come into play with your dispute, such as maybe, you went to court on that dispute and you were held not liable. You want to submit that. If you paid that Discover card, you want to submit proof that you paid it. So, different things like that. So you would submit the credit bureau, the letter, plus your proof, if there's any proof that needs to assist it.
Yes. I mean, definitely you want to have whatever evidence that you have to dispute whatever it is that they're saying. What we're going to do is this particular letter, participants will receive this at the end of the third session, just so we can see who all has participated. And then we will email it without the watermark to individuals to be able to use when they're ready to file disputes, if they have items that truly need to be disputed off of their credit in hopes of having their scores increase. I want to see if there are any questions before we close out. I'll give it a couple of seconds to see if anything ends up over here. There's always going to be a replay of this. And then Shalita, if you want to provide your contact information, if people are able to contact you, if they're interested in doing some type of credit repair, if they're interested in doing counseling, how would they get in contact with you?
Sure. My email address, I'll spell it, is SHALEITHA :KOA.
Actually, can you start over? I'm going to actually type it in the chat. What is it?
Fine. It's SHALEITHA KOHLIEM@gmail.com.
Or credit repair. Okay. I can stop sharing. And then I don't see any questions. And it looks like we're going to end on time, which is amazing. Time boundaries. Are there any final words you want to give to the individuals that are listening, or for people that are going to watch this later once it loads to the channel, since we're going to talk about settlement versus paid in full on Thursday? Is there anything you want to mention about that for participants before that, or anything you want to discuss or highlight from today's session?
Sure. So in closing, definitely kind of your credit is kind of like your health. Go out there, download the free apps, the Credit Karmas, the Credit Sesames, and keep up with what's going on with your credit. I know that sometimes when it's bad, you don't want to look at it, your eyes are closed and you squinch, but go ahead, look at it. Some things are just easier, that you can just see little certain things that you can get repaired. Some fixes are very easy and it can take place. Don't be scared of it. It's something that's going to be very important. As I stated in the beginning, we're moving into a cashless society. The currency is changing. We see it everywhere. I mean, we're talking about Bitcoins and NFTs, different things like that. I was on a website the other day. I want to say it was Lowe's, and they were telling me that they take Bitcoin.
Oh, wow.
So things are changing.
Yeah.
And so you definitely want to, repair your credit health. As I stated before, I'm no way saying that you should not go with a credit repair company.
Exactly.
I'm just saying that it is something that you can do with the right counseling and the right guidance. It's something that you can do on your own. And I would rather to see you preserve your funds, to better your credit health than possibly going into a situation that's going to get you in a deeper debt or, more of a credit crisis than what you're maybe already in.
I would say also when you're saying, so with the credit repair companies, and I say this with any professional that you're going to select, just do your research, yes. Right? Because sometimes you don't want to do the stuff yourself. You want to pay somebody because your time is valuable and you have other things that you have going on. And I say this, even if somebody is attempting to hire me, which I don't do a lot of clients anyways, but I think that you should always do your research on anyone. So if you're dealing with a credit repair company, ask them for some of their success stories. Ask them for references of individuals that's worked with them. Check the Better Business Bureau. Yes. Check Google. You can Google some of these companies and see that, okay, it's not as great as they're saying. Or you call the Better Business Bureau and go to their website and they have a rating of F, but you don't start doing that until after you feel like you didn't get what you
experience.
Yeah, you don't get what you signed up for, what you paid for. So that's why I always tell people, even if somebody comes to me, I'm like, well, how did you hear about me? And why do you want to use me? Because I feel like I interview my clients too, because I don't want my name dragged through the mud because I might end up with a difficult client. So I think those things go both ways. So as we're both saying, if a credit repair company is easiest for you, please use them. But what we don't want you to think is that this stuff just happens instantaneously and you get most excited by the fact that this came off of my credit in 20 days and my credit score has increased. But what you have to be mindful of, as we've said, if it's a valid debt, it's coming back. So just think about that. So again, credit repair companies are fine. Do your research, find somebody with an A rating, find somebody with a social media presence where you can see the work that they've done and see people that are commenting on their work. And if you find someone where you can't really find too much information about them, I would be a little bit concerned because your credit is the most valuable thing that you're going to have, especially if you're trying to get a car, you're trying to get a mortgage. Now, as they say, cash is king. Now, if you got $200, $300, whatever $1,000 to buy you a house in cash or $50,000, then this is probably not even for you. But just be mindful of who you are trusting with your information because they're going to have your social, they're going to have your address, they're going to have all of your sensitive information. And what we would hate is that you will go with a company that then steals your identity or takes your credit or any of those things. So just as always, do your research before you select any professional.
And, and the thing is that you can always go on Consumer Reports. Mm-hmm. That's my go-to for everything. I check Better Business. I go to Consumer Reports, yes. Yelp reviews, you name it. Facebook reviews, do your research. It's just the same as, doing your research on any other thing. Do your research before you choose, that company. And, you definitely want to deal with a company that's been around. You don't want the little pop-up, your little friend saying, oh, oh, I do credit now. I see it so much on my timelines everywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's Instagram, Twitter, and I'm just like, you do credit now. I'm like, I've been doing this since 1997. You don't just up and do credit now. With tons of training, tons of, it's a lot, because more than anything, you have to know the regulations.
Yeah. The
So,
laws, the statutes.
Anybody just messing with your credit.
And then one final thing, because I know we talked about the Better Business Bureau, but if you're located in Missouri, and I'm pretty sure your other states might have this, but you can go to CaseNet and see if there's any cases, or if they have anything going on in their background that might be kind of sketchy, where you're thinking, I don't think I want this person repairing my credit or having sensitive information. And
general also.
Yeah, but always remember, nothing is personal, is always business. So if you have to have a conversation with someone, don't go to it from a personal lens. Just, you did your research and you're deciding that this isn't the company for you. And you have that right, especially when you're spending your money and you're handing over sensitive information.
And also with my email, if you're looking for credit repair, I do counseling. I will teach you how to repair your credit. Gotcha. I'm not going to go in and repair your credit like the other companies say that they will do. I won't do that, but I will give you counseling on how to do it yourself. Gotcha. The best information, that's out there.
Sounds good. So make sure you all got that correction, because I did put credit repair in the notes. So it's just credit counseling. So do not ask for credit repair. She's not going to write any letters, but she will definitely guide you through the process. Again, I want to thank you for speaking with me and speaking to the group members. And I am excited to see what we're going to talk about on Thursday. It's going to be the same time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is 7 Eastern Time. And Pacific time -3, because what time is it?
3 o'clock.
So it's 4 o'clock Pacific time. I don't know any other times, but those are the 3 I got for y'all. So I will see you all on Thursday at 6 p.m.
Thank you all for joining up.